Good morning, Jacked and Nerdy fans. Welcome to my non-spoiler review for Horizon: An American Saga Chapter 1. As always, before we jump into that review, make sure you hit that subscribe button. That way you guys never miss out on a video. And if you do enjoy our content, please remember to give these videos a thumbs up. It supports the channel immensely and it doesn't cost you a thing. So with that out of the way, let's jump straight into it. So about 2 days ago, I went and saw Horizon: The American Saga Chapter 1. And I haven't released or filmed this video for a couple of days because I'm a bit torn. So I'll start off by saying, first and foremost, I did really enjoy this film. I did enjoy it. It is a very well-made film. The story is very interesting. Visually, it's quite spectacular. And I'll go into all of that in a bit more detail. But just as a generalization, I did thoroughly enjoy this film. However, there are a few negatives. So, what we'll do, we'll start with the negatives. Okay, we'll start with the negatives because there aren't many of them, but the negatives are impactful on the overall thoughts on the film. Okay, so obviously I saw the trailers. I thought it looked interesting. Kevin Costner is very heavily involved in it as well as starring in it. All of that. But I didn't know a lot about what the overall story was going into it. So, right from the outset, I was really struggling to try and piece together what the story was actually about, and what the overall, I suppose, plot line was going to be. And it's still an illusion to me. Even though it's really, really interesting, I think the closest thing that I can akin it to is it's very much filmed in a very similar style to Pulp Fiction. And I know that's a big leap. Pulp Fiction, Western drama. But it's filmed in the same style as the film depicts multiple stories of different groups of people spread out all across the US, and all of those individual stories, even though at the onset it's not really clear, as the film progresses, those people and their individual stories are all interwoven into one another and what have you. So it's that's how I can connect it to Pulp Fiction. It's individual stories about individual groups of people. However, they're all in the same time period, the same universe, and they're all They're going to interlock and interweave at some point, and cross over, I should say, at some point. So, like I said, I mean, there's no one specific story that you're following. It's not a. It's not a story as such. It's a journey that they're depicting on film of these individual people. So, like I said, from the start, it feels a bit disjointed and a bit unclear what's going on and what the overall story is. But as it progresses, that does become a bit more clear. That's my first kind of negative. The second negative I have is that this film is 3 hours long. And this is just chapter 1. There's still another chapter to come next month, which I believe is probably going to be about the same length. So 2 films, each 3 hours long. Now, I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan. I watch the director's cuts, which are 4 hours long, on a semi-regular basis. At least twice a year I watch those films. So I'm not adverse to long films being long. The fact is, though, this is a 3 hour long movie, and so if you're going to sit down and watch it, you've got to have a whole 3 hours available to you, which can be a very rare thing, especially if you're a parent or what have you. So having 3 hours to sit down and watch a film can be tricky. And that effect, and then that also has a flow-on effect down the line of rewatchability. So, in order to rewatch a film, you've heard me say a number of times in my reviews, a big deciding factor is rewatchability. If a film has rewatchability, it means it's a good film. This was a good film, and it may be a film that you might want to sit down and watch, several times, but you might only be able to watch it maybe once a year or every second year because you don't have that spare 3-hour block to sit down and watch. So that's my other negative. Okay, so those are my two negatives about this film. Length of it, and it's a little bit of a stumbly hodgepodge of stories, and starts off with no real clear direction, and you struggle to kind of connect and get into a rhythm. So those are the negatives. The positives: it is a fantastic story. And you really do form connections with some of the characters, some more than others, but you form connections with characters. The characters are all really written really well. It's engaging. The story is engaging and entertaining, and what have you. You're involved in it. So the story itself is really, really good. The casting is absolutely fantastic. I mean, it's almost, you look at the casting, you could almost swear that it's I've just had a mental blank. You could swear that even though it's directed by Kevin Costner, you would swear that it is done by the writer and director of Yellowstone. It's hang on, I'm just going to look it up because that's going to annoy me. Just hold on with me. Here we go, Yellowstone. Okay. Tyler Sheridan, that's it. So, Taylor Sheridan. So, you would swear that this film was written and directed by Taylor Sheridan just by the casting, because so many cast have come over from 1883 and Yellowstone and what have you, and are in this film. A good example of that is obviously, I mean, you got Kevin Costner obviously, but you've got Danny Houston. A couple of the cowboys from 1883 are in there. You recognise them. A lot of the Native American actors as well cross over. But then there are some other really, really great performances as well. So just to give you some examples, Abby Lee is absolutely fantastic. Sam Worthington, sorry, I'm getting excited there. Sam Worthington, good Australian boy, has a really good role, and he does a fantastic job. I really enjoy seeing him on screen. So shout out to the Aussie, Sam Worthington. Jenna Malone does a fantastic job as well. Michael Rooker, who I absolutely love and adore, and you can never do wrong with him. Luke Wilson is in there as well. I didn't expect to see Luke Wilson, but he does a fantastic job. Angus McFadden, who does fantastic. James Landry Hibbert, who crosses over from 1883. Fantastic actor and does a great job. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I can't list all of the phenomenal actors that are in this film because this video would be 20 minutes long. So jam-packed, fantastic cast in this film. So between the story, the casting, but to me, the other phenomenal thing that I just cannot get out of my head, and as I said, it's been about 2 days since I saw this film, and I'm still thinking about it today. The cinematography and the scenic shots that they made in this film are just absolutely breathtaking. And I mean, it's not a spoiler, but as I said before, it's like multiple stories about multiple groups of people. So it jumps around from different states. Like 1 minute you're in Montana, the next moment you're in Colorado, then you're in Wyoming. All of these, beautiful places, and just the imagery of the the scenery, the mountains, the valleys, the forests, all of that is just absolutely incredible. And it just it drives me even further to want to go and visit these places in real life. Mrs. Jack Did Nerdy and I have spoken many a times about doing a trip to the US. I mean, we've both been to the US multiple times, and we love visiting the US. But we specifically want to go do a trip to the US to go and visit some of these very scenic, kind of more grounded country areas or rural areas like Wyoming and Colorado and things like that. So, look, hands down, like if you're a fan of westerns, you'll love it. If you're a fan of Yellowstone and 1883, you'll love it. I'm a massive fan of those franchises. So I will give this a really good score because I did enjoy it. Like I said, I just felt that it's a little bit long, but when you're telling, I suppose, a saga, it's got to be over several films. This is a thing that you've got to do. Interesting enough, so it had a budget of $100 million. Which, you know what though, considering how expensive it is to film westerns, that's why they don't film westerns very much these days, is because of the cost of them. It costs a lot of money to film a western. I think the film is going to struggle to make its money or make profit. Only time will tell. We'll just have to wait and see. I do hope it makes a bit of profit because it is a great film. But when you compare it to, say, the film that we went and saw last week, it had a very, very modest budget of only between 30 and 40 million. It will make the Bike Riders. That's what it was. That will make its money back in spades. But this film may not make its money back. Only time will tell. So it's got an IMDb score of 7.1 out of 10, and it's got a Rotten Tomatoes score of 46%, so below 50% on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm leaning more towards the IMDb. I would give this film a solid 7 out of 10, purely because I'm such a massive Yellowstone fan and 1883 and all of that. I love these kind of genre pieces. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. If you're into the genre, if you're into these types of films, definitely do yourself a favor and check out Horizon. That is my review of part 1. I will do a review of part 2 next month once it's been released. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on that second video. And until next time, guys, stay jacked and stay nerdy.